Hi, this is about KAIST test. And this test is used to compare the observed frequencies of cases that occur in each of the categories. Equal ratio of frequency would be expected if there was no association between the two variables being measured. What it should be? Okay, let me take the example of M&M chocolates contained in different packages. And if the sorting machine is properly operating, then the proportion-wise, the chocolates are equally contained regardless of packaging types. But somehow there could be some error. So when the packaging machine is containing the chocolates in this paper bag, then it has a tendency to put more brown chocolates, something like this. So this is the research situation, and as a examiner, I use KAIST test to statistically compare the observed frequencies of chocolates that occur in each of package types, such as jar, bag, and tube. An equal frequency of colors would be expected if there is no association between package types and color frequency being measured. Okay, so horizontally is color distinction, color categories, 6 different color categories, and vertically the different packaging types. So if there is no particular association, such as let me see, a jar, if you buy M&M chocolates in jar package, then you will have more brown chocolates. Or if you buy a tube M&M chocolate, then you will have more yellows. That kind of special relationship between two levels with certain levels between levels of two variables. So yellow tube or brown jar, something like this. And if there's no relationship between color categories, variable 1, and the packaging type, variable 2, then the distributions are made homogeneously. Okay, so in this case, null hypothesis is the color chocolates are equally contained regardless of the packaging types. As alternative hypothesis, the color chocolates are not equally contained. It varies depending on types of packages. Okay, so based on our observation, the jars are having 302 chocolates, and the bag has 62, and tube had 31. And the total colors for red, green, yellow, and orange are 66, 62, 69, etc. So if there is no spatial relationship of one level over here and the other levels over here, like that, then each cell should have total multiplied by ratio of jar multiplied by ratio of the red. So in this case, the total number is 395. So the red chocolate in a jar should be 395 multiplied by ratio of a jar. So ratio of a jar, 302 over 395. That's the ratio of a jar. And ratio of the red is the 66 over 395. That's the ratio of the entire colors. So if you estimate this multiplication, then 50.46 should be obtained. So that's the expected frequency in this case. And our observed frequency, which means the actual frequency from our examination, has 50. So in this case, quite similar, right? So, but it's not exactly the same. So the question is whether we would consider this 0.46, this difference would be like meaningful, statistically meaningful, or non-meaningful. Okay, that's actually KAIST test is doing. Okay, so if you compare the one sample KAIST test with the KAIST test, then the difference is very simple. In one sample chi-square test, it's only one variable which has a couple of levels. And chi-square test, so normal chi-square test contains two variables and each has multiple levels, and usually you comprise a table. So horizontally, the levels of one variable, and vertically levels of the other variable, and then you compose a table like this. So when you estimate the chi-squared value for one sample chi-square test, then degree of freedom is the number of categories minus 1. But here, number of categories of one variable minus 1 is multiplied by the number of the other categories minus 1. So in this case, there were 6 colors, so degree of freedom should be 5. Here, number of package types was 3, so 2 multiplied by 5. 6 minus 1 is 5. So therefore, degree of freedom here is 10. And you see here the chi-squared value for equally significance level of 0.05, the chi-squared value is differently expected. Okay, so based on the data set presented here, you can estimate how big the chi-squared value of this data set should be. Then you can figure out whether the chi-squared value here will be larger than this or smaller than that. If the chi-squared value is larger than 18.31, which means the differences between expected frequency and observed frequencies and the added value are big enough. So there was a big difference between expectation and observation. And if it is smaller, then slight differences were observed, but the differences were not statistically significant. That should be your conclusion. A few years ago, some students prepared this beautiful layouts where different sea animals are shaped in different colors. And we observed that the frequencies are not equally distributed, but it's not that much different. So now in the meantime, you have a kind of confidence that we really need a drastic change to say that the differences are statistically significant. In theory, this data set is not adequate for chi-squared tests because more than 20% of each cell here are less than 5. So out of this data set, we actually don't perform the chi-squared test. But we know how the logic is working, so please try that out. It will be fun.